like a city. It's beauty. Yeah, 10 kilometers. Just delete. Chat. Tick. Retired. Use. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, probably like that.
Different building. Let's see this again, right? It goes to multiple buildings and then it asks us questions on where all it has been, right? So it's asked, for example, which was the first building that I visited, right? And I believe it was two. So I shall give the answer two, and it says, well done. Uh, did I visit building number four? No, actually, I do not remember. Probably it did. If I say, oh, in fact, it did, right? So, at which position did I visit building number three, right? So, for example, one for first. So, let's say probably it was two, right? Or say if I say two.
So when we make like that finish, we make another separate. We make the stick man. Hold on, I feel something. You can write about the stick. Add some. Yeah.
It says you need to be more attentive, right? Now, really, this is the point, right? So, so basically, I'm, this list will contain building is something that you already know, which
So about the building code. Then click hide and go to variable.
is basically placing sprites in a row, which itself
แม่กำลังรบกวนเขาเนี่ยแต่ฉลามมันน่าจะเป็นฉลามนะที่มันที่มันมีปากแบบนี้ใช่ไหมเนี่ยที่มันเป็นปากแบบนี้ใช่ไหมแก้ง่วงโอเคแม่เราลืมแล้วคนนั้นน่ะคนที่เขาอยากได้ไออันนั้นน่ะที่พันนมอ่ะอ๋อเยี่ยมเดี๋ยวเขาทำต่อให้ Go to the label, we make a list.
is a little brother of placing sprites in a grid, which we have seen. It turns out becomes a very powerful feature. Multi, right? In this, I am going. It will become costumes that
So we make a costume. What? But yeah, pop up. Yeah, yeah. And
the also so
we put a position. I got it tab bar. These two tab.
In this, I am going to store where all the building is being placed, right? So remember, lists are like big brothers of variables. Lists can store multiple things at once, right? And that, it turns out becomes a very powerful feature in many things, right? So here we have created two lists, and now we will see how we will use them, right? But before we do that, it's always a good practice to say that when I click the flag, I delete everything from that list, right? What that basically means is that
And if you want to know that, then click delete costume, probably like that.
any values that were stored in the list will get deleted, right? So this is a function of list we have seen before. I'm using it again. So delete all of costumes and delete all of X position. This is basically just
Not only costume but exposition. Yeah.
saying that let's empty out the list. It's always a good practice, always recommended, yeah, to do so. Now I'll say, the building I want to set the size of the building to a little bit smaller than what it is. So I'll say set size to say 80%. I mean, this is okay. You can choose some different number as well, right? And I remember my goal here is to place the buildings in
So we will change the building size to 80. Probably this is going to be work. Good.
in one row, which is like, placing them in a grid, but just in a row, right? So I'll say, I'll go to motion block and I'll say set X to minus 200, right? Because I just want the building to go from somewhere to the left to right. So I just say, for example, say minus 200, right? Again, nothing
From 4 to the previous 80. Set, set X to
particular about this minus.
minus 200. Probably. Huh? Oh yeah, it's over there. Good.
200, but just that I want to put it somewhere on the left side, right? Now, remember my building costumes were named 1 to 7, right? So I want to make sure, and I'll show you here, I want to make sure that when the building's placed, sometimes I get 3 here, sometimes say I get, I try it again, I got 1 here this time, another time I might get 5 and so on. So I want to kind of randomize these things, which keeps my game interesting, right? So to do this, a simple method would be to use a random number and set the costume of the building to a number between 1 and 7, right? So that every time it is different, right? So what that will do is that every time I play the game, the sequence of buildings would change. Yeah. So I'll do that by saying, switch costume to, it says 7 here right now, but I can go and use a random number.
So we wanted to change the costume random. So we use switch costume operation. Let's look. If we have 10, we use like this. But if we have 3, we change this to be pick random 1 to 3. But I have 6, so 6. Let's take a look. You can see over here and over here it changed. Like this.
Pick random 1 to 10. So let's say I say pick random 1 to 7, right? The reason I put 7 is because, as I told you, there are 7 costumes in here and I've named them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So it's just easier for me to address them, right? So I say switch costume from 1 to 7, randomly pick up one and switch costume to that. And after this, now I'm going to start cloning, but then I'm also going to start using my list. So please pay attention to this, right? So how do I clone this thing? Let's say cloning part is, I think, you
ทำไมมันคันจังเลยอือฮึทำไมพักฮะอยากโดนเหรอฮะโอเค thank you
quite simple by now. So I'll say repeat this 7 times. All right. I will say go to the control block and create clone of myself, right? Remember, it's building cloning itself. Okay. Having done this, I will say change X position by 60. So basically, I say I put one building here, I move X by 60, and I keep doing this for 7 times, right? So this we have seen before. So I'll just rush through this quite fast. I will say change X by, say, let's say 60, right? So what this does is that it will basically,
so we will clone it oh let me just put this on so we will clone it repeat 7 times we will clone myself let's take a look
Basically, it will create a clone of the building, right? Create a clone of myself, and it will do that every 60 x values, right? So you will get 7 buildings which are separated from each other by a value of 60, right? Let's just see how this works, and for this purpose I'll for now hide my list. Let us see how this works. However, before I could do that, I must say what I do after I start as a clone. And in this case, it's very simple. I'm just going to say, when I start as a clone, show. It's exactly the same as what we have done in the games like Brick Breaker or the Whack-A-Mole game, where we made clones and we just made them basically be there just to show, right? So I'll say show, right? Now, when I do this, let's see what happens, right? I get
So we will try take this and this. Let's look. Oh, something 60. 7. This. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it duplicate like that. Scrap. Yeah, it duplicate like that.
building number 5 7 times. And why did I get building number 5? Maybe because the random number here was 5. If I did this again, this time we got 7. Now I got 1. Now I got 2. Now let's say I wanted to get different buildings every time I clone. Very simple. I can use next costume at the repeat, right? So if I say next costume here,
So that is so very easy and extremely simple. Is just drag this into this and let's look. Yo, it's work. Look, it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. Not like 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Oh, wait. Huh? 3. Wait, what? 3, 3. So to do, you just need to use only like this. Let's take a look. Do 100 data. So terrible. It's extremely terrible. Oh yes, much better.
then what will happen is that I will get a different building every time, right? So I, for example, now we got 7 1 2 3 4 5 6, right? So on another time I could get 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it will always be in order, but the starting point will change because that depends on the random number that has been picked up here, right? So this particular thing is quite, I think, okay. The next costume is a little bit new part, but that's just basically saying that before I make the clone, change the costume. That's all, right? So if I do this again, it changes all the time, and this I do this so that my game remains a little bit interesting. I can't memorize this, right? I have to observe this closely and then look at it, right? So now, so far so good. There's nothing much new in this except that I've added two lists which I'm now going to use. Okay, so the first list is going to keep track of which costume has ended up where, right? So remember, this part is random, right? So we start from a random number, so it could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 5, it could be 7, it could be anything from 1 to 7. So we will keep track of this using a list called costumes, right? So how do I do that? In this repeat loop, I go to my lists block and I say add, right? So I say add, go to
So, add, if we use adding costume to,
looks costume name to to the so I'd say co costume, costume. It says costume number here, but I can also call it costume name to the costumes. Right now, really doesn't really matter for me because my costumes are numbered and named identically, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My two, it says costume number here, but I can
so we change the thing and we put a cost, costume number.
also call it costume name to the costumes. Right now, really doesn't really matter for me because my costumes are numbered and named identically, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Costume name refers to this thing, that that value there, and I'm saying that add this to costumes, right? So every time I create I create a clone, I basically add that particular costume to my list called costumes, right? So let's see what this does. If I make my list visible, it will be clear to you. So if I did this here, right, if I click this, notice my costumes are, the list called costumes has become 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, right? And you notice that the buildings here also are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, right? Now, strictly speaking, I could have put next costume somewhere else, but really doesn't matter. So basically I'm picking some number, I'm going
And we will look at it. Look, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 1, 2, 3,